Welcome to the channel, everyone. I'm Skratch. This is another Starborne Frontiers video, so I want to start by giving a massive shout out to Solid Cloud for sponsoring today's video. If you're not familiar with Starborne Frontiers, it's a free-to-play auto battle tactical RPG game available on both PC and mobile, guys. So you can play it on the go, you can play it from home. It's a hero collector game. You get to collect units, develop your teams, your squad, and fight bosses and collect sweet precious loot. Now if you guys want to get involved, if you want to help and support the channel, you can download the game by using the link in the description down below or in the pinned comment and come and join me in Starborne Frontiers. In today's video, guys, we're going to talk about the ultimate way on how to gear units. So you have a few different type of units in the game, right? You're going to have debuffer, attacker. You actually have two different types of attackers. You have supporters, you have defenders, and the supporters are of kind of like of two types as well, because some of them will buff, some of them will heal. Now, when we are talking about the actual gear sets that you have in the game, there are tons of them. You have two-piece sets. You can forge some of the gear. You can earn some of the gear by completing more challenging content. I want to start by basically showing you how to build each one of these units. So this one right here is a debuffer, right? Which means that it's going to go in the fight and land debuffs on the enemies. This skill will put speed down and crit power down. This one, for example, will put attack down and out damage down as well. The passive will not really have to do anything with debuffs and stuff like that, but you want to make sure you have the right stats on a unit like this one. So if you're going to go at equipment, as I mentioned, tons of different stats. You have fortitude, which gives you HP. You have attack. You have crit rate set. You have defense set. You have speed set. You have hacking set, which is the equivalent of accuracy, basically. You have ambush. This is one of the more special set. I only have one piece that I actually got from the Christmas boss. You have the critical set, as I mentioned. So tons of different combinations to allow you basically to build your units exactly how you want to build them. So on my debuffer, for example, we will require to have speed. We will require to have hacking to make sure we're going to land those debuffs. So if we're going to click on more info right here, guys, you're going to see that all of the stats are actually explained right here at the bottom. Now, before we go into the actual gear pieces, I want to show you the stats first, just to make that easier for you guys to understand. So the top three pieces will only have the same main stat as a flat. You're going to have on one HP, on one attack, on one defense. That can never be different on the top three pieces. On the bottom pieces, on the other hand, you're going to be able to have multiple stats. So you're going to be able to have flat stats, which are the bad ones. On HP, defense, and attack. You're going to be able to have crit rate, crit damage. You're going to be able to have attack. You're going to be able to have HP percentage, defense percentage. You're going to be able to have speed, hacking, and security. Now, what exactly it means, hacking and security? Because the other stats are pretty straightforward. If you ever played a similar game, you're going to know exactly what they do. And even if you never played a similar game, you're still going to know what HP, attack, defense, crit rate, and crit power will do. Hacking is basically the equivalent of accuracy. It's the stat that you require in order to land debuffs on the enemy. Security is basically the equivalent of resistance, and that's how you're going to be able to resist an opponent from applying debuffs on you. Now, the way these two stats work is the following. If you have 100 security, and if you have 100 hacking, or if an opponent has 100 security and your hero unit has 100 hacking, that means that you're going to have a 0% chance to land a debuff. Basically, the more hacking you have on top of the enemy's security, the higher the percentage chance for you to land the debuff. So if you want to get close to that 100% chance to land a debuff on an enemy that has 100 security, you will require to have approximately 200 hacking to ensure that you're going to be able to land it without getting resisted constantly. Now that we've made that clear, as I've mentioned, the gear can only have a flat stat at the top, right? So you have attack. On the weapon, on the hull, you have HP. On the generator, you have defense. The substats can vary. They can be all type of substats, pretty much every single stat in the game. Then on the actual sensor, you're going to be able to have flat defense, HP, attack percentage, defense, HP percentage. You're going to be able to have crit rate and crit damage percentage. Right here, HP percentage, defense percentage. You're going to be able to have attack percentage, flat HP, attack, and defense, security, and hacking. On the generator, you're going to have speed. You're going to have flat HP, defense, and attack, or percentage HP, defense, and attack. So, the main thing that you want to prioritize, having speed thrusters. Having, preferably, if you can, hacking software. Right here, having an HP or a defense percentage sensor, and the substats, you should prioritize as much speed and as much hacking as possible next to the survivability. So you want to have as much hacking as possible, as much speed as possible, because you want to make sure the debuffer will get to land the debuffs, preferably as often as possible, and in some cases, before your damage dealers get to take a turn, in case if they will get their damage enhanced by any debuffs that are being landed on the target. So, that's how you build the debuffers. Moving on to the attackers. This is the standard attacker, which deals damage based on attacks. You have the multipliers right here, more or less. On the same second skill, pretty much the same story, 220% damage, and the passive will do something else. Now, when we're talking about how to build this type of a unit, pretty standard. You want to get as much crit rate as possible, as much attack as possible, as much crit power as possible. Of course, there is some scaling and probably diminishing returns in between the high attack and crit power. You're going to want to try to balance those. But at the moment, I'm still early on. I don't have the best gear and stuff. So, total stats on this one, for example, as you guys may notice, we have very high attack, right? We have 8.3k attack. We have the implants, we have the sets, the equipment, and then we have only 73 crit rate at the moment, 107 crit power, and I have 100 speed. Speed is important for every single unit. But if you want to make a unit deal a lot of damage, you're going to want to prioritize attack on the thrusters, attack on the software, and most likely later in the endgame, once we're going to be able to get higher crit rate, you're going to have you're going to want to have crit power on the sensor rather than crit rate, right? So you have higher crit power while you are close to full crit rate. If by any chance we're not going to be able to reach that, we're going to have to try and get crit rate sensors instead of the crit power and look for crit power on substats, or not go with full crit rate on our units. So a unit like this will require attack. Not so important to have very high speed, right? But it's still good to have some speed on your unit, because usually most of these type of games are basically revolving around speed on your units, making sure they're taking turns, and you can actually overlap units as well. If your speed is super high, you're going to be able to basically double dip on turns. Then you have the other type of attacker. For example, Butcher right here. Of course, he can deal raw damage as well, and he can be absolutely amazing at doing it. But what's very, very important on him is that he can inflict dot damage, Inferno 2, which deals 30% damage every turn. Then it's all about the block buff, sorry. It's all about the dot damage. So you have Inferno right here, which is kind of like a burn. Then you have other dot damage dealers, which will deal dot damage based on the enemy max HP. So these type of units don't necessarily require to have very high attack. Now, of course, if you have the gear to build them with high attack, it's absolutely fine. If you have the gear to give them very high crit rate and crit power, amazing. But the main thing that you want to prioritize on a unit like this is, of course, having a lot of hacking, a lot of accuracy on your unit to ensure that you're going to be able to land the debuff, regardless if it's a dot damage or whatever. And at the same time, as I mentioned, if you have room to improve the stats on your unit, is fine. Get as much attack as possible. But I would preferably go with speed on the thrusters, hacking on the software, attack, crit rate on the sensors. It really depends how much attack I will be able to get on the unit, because the attack is not the main thing. The attack will not actually influence the dot damage. Butcher might not be the best example for this, but it does apply a similar type of effect as well. So that's how you're building the dot damage units. Supporters, I'm talking about a healer. Let's start with this one. So we have the A1 skill. This unit repairs 17.5 of its max HP and grants a buff. With the second, the charge skill, this unit repairs 20% of its max HP and grants increased damage down for 2 turns. Absolutely amazing. So what do we want to get on a unit like her? We want to get as much HP as possible, as much speed as possible. It doesn't matter how much hacking, attack, defense, etc. we have. Yes, defense does help with survivability, don't get me wrong. But her whole skill revolves around having high HP, so she generates higher healing on your units when you are on the battlefield. The higher the speed, the more turns she's going to take, the more often she's going to heal, and the more often she's going to buff. So when we're talking about gear sets, you can of course equip a speed set if you like. You can go with a fortitude set to get 15% HP per 2 sets. I actually have 2 different fortitude sets on her. And on substats, speed, HP percentage. Of course, I don't have perfect gear. I still need to do a lot of farming. I don't have speed on this one, for example. You can get security on units like this to make sure they're not getting debuffed, to make sure they're still going to be able to take their turn. They're not going to get crowd controlled, so they're still going to be able to use their active skill and make sure they're healing your team, basically. So that's how you're building supporters / healers. When we're talking about tanks, now there are tanks that do some things like debuffing. You want them to take turns to ensure that they will land the debuffs, because they can be pretty crucial in a fight. And there are tanks that don't really do anything but tank for your team. So for example, we have Yazid right here. This unit repairs itself, so basically it's going to generate some healing. With the charge skill, basically it's going to gain ever living regeneration for 2 turns and deal damage. So increases the incoming repair by 20% and security by 15. And you have the passive, which again will be really helpful for the unit because it will put block damage. You don't necessarily need to go crazy on the speed. It's not bad to have some speed, but in some cases, if that block damage is on and is getting close to basically either kill you or you're getting close to kill the boss, you might not want to have very high speed because it will tank for your other units. So you don't necessarily need to prioritize crazy defense. You're going to have diminishing returns as well on the defense, like in any other game. Probably once you reach a specific cap. I'm not exactly sure about the math on it because I haven't done a lot of testing to actually do the math for it. But let's assume 4k defense, 4.5k, maybe 5k defense. After that, you're going to start getting diminishing return. So you're going to want to focus on very high HP instead to make sure you're going to be able to basically take a lot of hits. Then, if your tank debuffs, some hacking would be very, very helpful as well. Even though it will be pretty hard to try and squeeze everything in, so you're going to have to make the most out of your sets. So I have a speed set, I have a fortitude, and I have a defense set as well in here to basically try and get all of the stats on. Now, when we're talking about the bottom pieces, HP percentage, and we have HP percentage. This time around, I'm not using speed thrusters on my tank. And these are the stats. The more HP, the better. As I mentioned, I'm still early on in the game. I still need to do a lot of farming, but I have 44k HP, 4.5k defense. I think I have maybe too much defense, to be honest. Maybe another HP set, a fortitude set instead of the defense one would benefit me. But I don't have the right main stats on those pieces, so that's why I'm running what I have at the moment. 100 speed only. That should work. I don't have crazy crit rate on the unit or crazy crit power because I don't really need it for this specific unit. Yes, the substats gave me that because that's what the gear rolled, unfortunately, but The main thing that I'm looking for is to get HP percentage, defense percentage, even security, because if I'm going to be able to resist as well, it will be really beneficial for my tank. Then, the final unit, guys. We have different types of support units that don't heal, but buff. Okay, so take, for example, Harvester right here. This unit will grant crit rate up and attack up for 1 turn and cleanse a debuff. Very, very nice. And the charge skill, this unit grants crit power up to and attack up to for 2 turns. So that means that we don't need hacking, we don't need high HP, we don't need high defense. So the main thing that we really need to have on this unit is high speed, as much speed as possible. This unit needs to go in front of all of your units to make sure everybody's going to get a buff, especially the damage dealers. Not so important for the other supporter, at least not for this support character, right? Because other ones, they can give you more beneficial buffs that will help your entire team rather than just the damage dealers, right? So you want to prioritize as much speed as possible. Security can be nice again, but then after you're done with the amount of speed, you can look at getting some good survivability. A defense software or an HP percentage one. The sensors the same, HP or defense. Now on the substats, you want to look for as much speed as possible, guys. Speed is king in pretty much every single game that I've played, and this one is no exception, guys, okay? That's pretty much all in terms of gearing, in terms of different type of units, basically. Let me know if you guys want to add anything else to the video. Hopefully you found it helpful. As usual, appreciate every single one of you guys watching. Big shout out to Solid Cloud for sponsoring today's video. And if you guys want to get involved, don't forget, you can download the game by using my link in the description down below or in the pinned comment, and come and join me in Starborne Frontiers. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.